We are now onto a very exciting session, mobile web applications. This session is, the presenter for this session is Kingsley Wood. He's an entrepreneurial business development, sales and project management professional. Kingsley has a diverse technical background. He's currently with Amazon Web Services and has extensive experience in virtualization, cloud computing, and online web technologies and architectures. Let's enjoy mobile web applications.
All right, let's get that up there. Does that work there? Hi. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk. Coming in at the last bit there, it sounds like this is quite a technical audience. So I'm going to give an introduction to Amazon Web Services' view of cloud computing and how you can use that for web, mobile, and social apps. So hopefully that'll be a tie-in to what you've been talking about today. Just hearing the last gentleman answer the question about mobile apps, how important it is to have the reaction, the speed of which the experience can happen on a mobile app can change the commerce opportunity, right? The opportunity to make a transaction very quickly, to experience something on web, mobile apps, and so on. So what I'm going to talk about today is really largely around how Amazon views our view of how we can help companies innovate and how we're encouraging innovation, both from the perspective of Amazon innovating our technology, and I'll go into that in a little bit of detail, but also about how we help you innovate your solutions. And part of what that is looking at some of these companies. You'll recognize a lot of these logos. These companies have not been around for very long. They've only been around for a few years, and arguably one of the most successful aspects of them being successful, or one of the reasons for their success, is that they don't own a lot of infrastructure. They've managed to scale to remarkable numbers without having to own any infrastructure, and that's really what our key message is in cloud computing. Just by way of show of hands, as an example, Dropbox. Who uses Dropbox here? Did you guys know that all of you, Dropbox runs 100% on Amazon? So they're using Amazon Web Services infrastructure to run their storage system. Now you might think that's amazing. How do they take that data that you provide into Dropbox and put it on storage? But they're leveraging Amazon's cloud. And a lot of these companies are doing the same sort of thing. They've grown to literally millions of users without having to own any infrastructure. Now, those aren't the only use cases. It's a bit hard to see from the back here, but these are kind of the very high-profile companies that have now adopted cloud computing and are using cloud computing to drive their mobile app experiences, their web experiences, and also their back-end IS systems. So it's very good for us as Amazon to be able to proudly put up some of these names. NASA, Shell, Samsung. Everyone knows those nice Samsung TVs. They all connect at the back end to Amazon Web Services cloud infrastructure. And I want to show you a little bit about how you can leverage those kind of technologies. You will be familiar with all the technology partners on the right, Microsoft, SAP, Oracle. You've all been using those technologies for years, but you can use those same skills in Amazon's cloud. So it's actually available to you to do not have to learn anything new. You're familiar with the platform, you can use that. So let me maybe start off with defining what is cloud computing. A lot of you will hear from a lot of your vendors, oh, we have a cloud solution, a cloud offering. But what does that really mean? From Amazon's perspective, there's 4 key aspects that we have to address. The first one is elasticity. Can you add infrastructure and take it away when you don't need it? A lot of vendors will sell you hardware as much as you want to buy, but they won't take it back when you don't need it anymore. And we all know, especially in cyclical industries like retailing and eTailing and so on, there's a cycle of need, right? There's a capacity that goes up and down. You don't want to be stuck with too much infrastructure for the Christmas season and then come the next day, you don't need it anymore. So the key with cloud computing here is it's elastic. The second one is on demand. We want you to be able to take what you need when you need it right away. Don't call me or my sales colleagues in the middle of the night and say, hey, I need 30 new servers. Just ask for it on demand, delay, nothing. You go ahead and use it, all right? Because again, any vendor will sell you hardware, but you can't call up your saying, I need 50 new servers by 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. What? They can't deliver that, right? The third aspect is very important. It's the money. It's the pay as you go. So just the same as you switch on a light, you start paying for it, you switch off, you stop paying for it. I often give people the analogy of you get up in the morning, you get in the shower, you go to work, but you don't leave the shower running all day. That would be crazy, right? You're wasting water. But people are doing this all the time with their IT infrastructure. They're switching it on and they're just letting the water run all day, whether they use it or not. We think that's crazy. So what we're trying to support is the notion of pay as you go, only pay for what you use, but switch it off when you don't use it. And what these three things tie together is that you can now focus on your business. So if it's doing a great retailing experience or a great web app or a game or something you're trying to sell online, that's where you want to spend your time, not wasting time on the IT infrastructure parts of it. So I'll give you an example. If you're Dropbox and you want to store 50 terabytes over a period of 3 years, that's your projection, right? We would only charge for the amount of storage that you're actually paying for, what you're actually using at any one time. That's the blue part. Traditionally, you would have to allocate more space or buy more hardware in order to be able to handle that load. But with Amazon, we don't want you to waste money with the red. We think that's a waste. We only charge you for exactly how much you store. So if you have a whole bunch of catalogs and systems you're storing on your system to send to people or to show people, video files, PDFs, we're only going to charge you for how much you store. If you delete it, the next day your bill goes down. Very flexible. The same thing goes with capacity. If you have a need that's changing, maybe it's cyclical, maybe there's a holiday event or a new sale for an item, your capacity needs are going to vary as well. So traditionally, you would have to allocate to the red line. That's as much as you will need in the worst case scenario. But what happens then is that you've wasted all the gap between the red line and the blue line. So apply this to a whole bunch of use cases, whether you're switching systems on and off, whether you're growing very fast. The worst case is down the bottom there, the variable peaks when you don't know how successful you're going to be. If more customers come to your website to buy an item, but you don't have enough infrastructure, you can't call up your vendor and get enough hardware to handle it. So your dissatisfaction of customers goes up, right? They're not going to have all the systems that they need available to them. So this is really goes back to the whole light switch idea. Switch off when you don't need it, stop paying for it, your bill goes down, but you're also able to meet the demands of the capacity that you require. And this is where the cloud computing solution follows exactly your need. And applying it to all four of those business models, the red line now follows exactly the capacity as you require, whether it's a busy day or a not busy day and so on. So this is our model. Only pay for what you need, right? You're not going to pay for the whole bench. You only need to sit on one side of it. Now, a lot of you will be saying, oh, well, I've got my vendor telling me I can buy the hardware this way and he can build it all for me in my own IT infrastructure. Make sure you're doing an apples to apples comparison. Are you taking into account you're going to need the staff to run it? You're going to need the floor space. You're going to need the air conditioning, the wiring, etc., the licensing for all the software. If you take all that into account, the true comparison of cloud computing has to make sure that you're taking into account you don't have to worry about all those things when you're putting them in Amazon. So we're trying to make it easy for you to launch your website, launch your shop, your online game, your mobile app without having to worry about all that IT infrastructure. So very briefly, here's our dream. You come up with an idea. You've got a new product that you want to sell, and you're designing it. You're going to build your mobile app. You're going to design it in such a way that you hope lots of people will like it. This is the hope that everyone will love it. But if they do, this is what happens. Millions of people show up to use it. Now, are you ready for them? Can you handle a massive scale? If Dropbox was sort of successful and they had 100 customers, great. They probably would never have had a problem. But suddenly they've got millions of customers, and Instagram and Pinterest and even Amazon.com itself had huge ramp-ups, and they were able to handle that massive load because they were able to scale in the cloud. So this is what you don't want your customers to see. You don't want it ever to become unavailable. Especially in today's retail market, you want to make sure that your application is available 24/7. You never want the customer to go, I want to buy this right now, but I can't buy it now, so I'm going to go somewhere else. Right? So the whole idea is, can we eliminate the interruption into your system? So if you look at some of the requirements, and I don't know how technical a lot of you are, but you might be thinking, all of these things are things I've heard of my IT guys complain about. I have to have bandwidth, I have to have scale, I have to have capacity, right? And if you try and do this all yourself, very quickly you're going to come to a point where you get a meltdown situation. So by putting it in the cloud, you're relying on us to provide that infrastructure. What's really exciting about this, and we can go into all the details of the specifics, but we're providing all this infrastructure in things that you already know you need. You need storage. You need databases. There's lots of different types of databases. You need compute power to run your web applications. You need some sort of ability to scale automatically, because you don't want someone up at night adding machines, removing machines. When a big sale comes on, you don't want to have to hire 2 people to go in at the middle of the night and add servers and add wires and so on. You just want the system to react automatically. So that's the auto-scaling aspect. And finally, CloudFront is our content distribution network. When you have the need to distribute your content worldwide, this is where we can really shine. We can really help you out. So all of these are building blocks that you put together with some of our reference architectures that we've got. We've just suggested ways of how to run a media application or a web application. So I'm going to jump through some of this as technical stuff, but just to give you an idea of companies like Dropbox, how are they actually architecting this? They're using a service, we call it S3, and they basically take your file and put it in our system. And you can use the same for your websites, for your video files, anything that you want to store digitally, any electronic content you can store just the same way as Dropbox does. What we really want to promote is the ability for you to go global. It's amazing now, for the first time in history, people, no matter where they're based, they can literally address the global audience. So if your mobile app or your game or the product you're selling is of interest to anyone on the planet, you want to make sure that person has access to the web app, the mobile app, the website, so they've got access to buy the product, right? So you want as many eyeballs as possible. That's what we're all trying to get through to. So to do that, what Amazon has done is built a global infrastructure. And just to briefly outline this, we have 9 regions around the world. When I came to Asia Pacific 3 years ago, we just built the Singapore one. A year later, we built Tokyo. A year later, we built Sydney. And now we have 9 around the world. Each one of those regions is made up of a number of availability zones. Now, what do I mean by that? You know the term a data center. So each one of our regions has multiple data centers. And they're connected with low latency dark fiber. But if one of those data centers was to blow up and burn down and disappear into the sea, the other buildings can take over. So your system is redundant. Right? We're getting back to this unavailable. We don't want to see that unavailability sign for your users. So if your application goes dead in one availability zone, the users can be shifted automatically to the other one, and they'll never be interrupted. So you don't have to worry about one machine failing or one AZ failing. On top of this, we have a system of edge locations. And what we've done here is we've provided connectivity to all the major metropolitan cities around the world, and we're adding new ones all the time. Just 2 months ago, we added Seoul, Korea. That was our 40th edge location. And what this does is it enables us to send data to the places where it's most needed very quickly. So think of a mobile app. The first person in Paris to get it, it's going to go to Singapore, it's going to get the image, it's going to come back, sit on his mobile app. Great. Then he shows his friend next to him. He says, hey, this is a great app. You should buy this product. That person connects to it, but the data is already in Paris. So the connectivity for the second person is almost instant. And that's how the content distribution network can spread. Think of an application where you're just trying to get your message out to as many eyeballs as possible. The faster it can feed into those mobile apps, the better. And this is where the system works. Connects to the original system, takes it over to the edge location then serves it. We have a system called Route 53, which detects where your customers are and sends them to the nearest edge location automatically. So if your customer is in Tokyo or New York or whatever, it's going to give them the best possible customer experience. All of this happens in a flash. And you don't have to worry about it. We manage all of it for you. All you have to do is put your application into the cloud, into AWS, and then we will take care of the routing and latency for you. Very, very efficient. I'll jump through to a little bit more to give you an example. If you have a whole bunch of web servers, and many of you are running your website or your application somewhere, and you have customers on the right, if you can offload some of your content into S3, our storage, and then use this content distribution network, we believe you can actually reduce the number of servers that you're running, which means lower bills. So your cost per month can actually go down while your customer experience goes up. Seems counterintuitive, but that's the offer that we're making if you leverage cloud computing properly. We can really help to make your system more efficiently like that. Good example, we have a customer in Singapore called Perks. You open this application up and you walk around Singapore and it tells you what are the restaurants close by to you. Now, if you think about it, all these logos for the restaurants, they haven't changed. The Subway logo hasn't changed in 15 years, right? So why go and ask the web server again and again, what's the logo, what's the logo? We know what the logo is. Put it on the edge and let it serve out automatically. So your web server doesn't have to work so hard. You can serve more customers with less hardware, cost savings, right? Then you have the dynamic call. If you go to a specific Subway and you're a specific person, there's a special today, which is a 6-inch tuna or whatever it is, right? That system call is a call to the database. If you can avoid making that database call repeatedly, you actually need less hardware. You need a smaller database to achieve the same thing. Again, saving costs by using less hardware to achieve a better experience. I'll skip through this as well because I'm trying to compress as much as I can into this time, but just think of the auto-scaling aspect of this. When you all come into work in the morning, 6 a.m., let's say you have 2 machines running to handle your email server. By 7 a.m., 8 a.m., those machines are starting to run hot. In other words, everyone's starting to use them. The machines are busy. We can auto-detect when the machines are busy and add a 3rd machine. And that takes the load off by spreading the load between 3 machines. towards the end of the day, hopefully everyone goes home, the machines go down, they start getting cold, we can switch one off, save you money. So you're running only 2 machines across the night instead of 3 machines. If you think about how that adds up over a period of time, there's tremendous savings there as well. So if you take an example again of switching these off, if you have machines behind a load balancer, we will handle the versioning of those machines to spread the load between, say, version 1, version 2, when you want to upgrade. If you want to put a new offer or a new system, we can let you upgrade those systems without any interruption to your user. The traffic still flows. And as you add more machines and more users, again, spreading it between multiple availability zones, you continue to get more and more traffic, but the customer doesn't have any interruption, even though you're changing things on the back end. It's kind of like taking off in an airplane and in mid-flight saying, oh, let's upgrade the engine, let's change the wing a little bit, let's put some more seats on. All the time while you're flying, no interruption. If you look at some of the companies that you might be familiar with, Pinterest, they use this system all the time because their traffic every day goes up and down. So every day they switch machines off at night and they run more machines during the day. Now, if they were building their own machines, they'd have to run all the machines all the time. But with us, they can switch them off and stop paying for them. And the cost savings are tremendous. If you look at what Pinterest was doing a year ago, this is 12 months ago, they were running all of their infrastructure for Pinterest for $52 per hour. And at night, it was only charging them $15 per hour. So think about how that adds up over time. Tremendous savings. You get a company like that with 18 million users. We're all running on 12 staff. They have very good control of their cloud computing needs, so their IT infrastructure is not something they're spending a lot of time and money on. They're just letting us take care of it for them. Another good example, Instagram. At their peak, when they were bought by Facebook, there were 2 guys in Instagram that were actually running all of the Amazon Web Services stuff. They still run completely on us, but they were handling 30 million customers with only 2 staff. Remarkable. So what about this guy, Amazon.com? Arguably one of the biggest retailers online. If you look at our cyclical day-to-day traffic, it kind of looks like this. America wakes up, they start shopping. America goes to sleep, they shop less, right? That's the daily variance. Now, if you look at these graphs, we're actually spending about 61% of that time where we need the hardware. And if you had to allocate enough hardware to handle all of it, there's a 39% wastage on top, right? That would be if we didn't have any flexibility in our system. Now, that's for a typical week at Amazon. Now you're going to go to a whole different view. Let's look at November. Way, way different, right? The spikes for Black Friday or Cyber Monday or whatever it is, this is where Amazon really needs to have a lot of its capacity ready, right? In fact, some of the peaks that we've experienced are 80,000 credit card transactions per second. So Amazon gets really busy when people start shopping. But if you look at this in terms of a utilization measure, right, we're spending 76% of that time would be wasted if we had all the hardware allocated. But just back in November 2 years ago, we finally converted all of our system of Amazon.com onto Amazon Web Services. So the same technology that I'm saying is offering to you, the cloud computing stuff, is exactly what Amazon.com runs on. And if you look at it now, we follow the traffic, the capacity exactly. So the blue line there is exactly what we're paying for. If the system needs more servers, we add servers. If it doesn't, we switch them off. So our efficiency has gone from wasting 76% right down to almost nothing. And you can do the same thing with your system, whether it's a mobile app or a web app or whatever it is. You can vary your system accordingly. At the end of the day, we're just saying it's very inexpensive to try new things. So we encourage you to innovate and use new technologies like this at a very low cost. If it doesn't cost too much to experiment, you don't have to buy a whole lot of hardware. It can be very efficient to try new things like this. I'm going to skip through this just to give you an idea of some of our customers. One of the biggest trends at the moment is these online games. Wooga Games is one of our customers. And they use the cloud in a very innovative way. They want to experiment with how many gold pieces customers are willing to buy to pay for their magic wands. And you think, well, you know, that's silly, that's just a game. But it's really no different from any retailing organization. You have a product, you want to see which price sticks. If I charge a little bit more, will less people buy it? If I charge a little less, etc. So what they do is they duplicate their infrastructure twice. They have A and B, pricing model in A, pricing model in B. When customers come, they don't know whether they're being directed to A or B. They play the game maybe on one system or the other. But over a period of time, they can measure with big data, with an analytics and so on, to see which is the more successful pricing model. And if you use these kind of pricing model variations, you too can actually determine which pricing model yields the most revenue. and you can change the system like that. The great thing about cloud computing is you can build these systems up and tear them down very, very quickly. So I'll skip through the database stuff, any database you need and so on. I'm just going to skip through that. We can talk about those in detail, but what I wanted to get to was this concept of building blocks. We have a bunch of services, a bunch of cloud computing technologies. You can pull together the ones that you want to use. So it's very simple for you to build a system in multiple availability zones anywhere in the world to distribute to customers anywhere in the world. And you can actually use our system to build a database that's redundant. We have backups systems. We can have replications, master slave. You might recognize all those terms, as well as making the system auto-scalable. So it can, by itself, add capacity, get bigger, and also get smaller when you don't need those systems. So you can get the whole system running. We'll help you target your customers specifically to where they are in the world, direct them to the best user experience. So I hope this has been a very quick introduction. Again, the flexibility we offer is on any system that you might be familiar with, whether you program in Java or .NET or PHP and so on. And I hope you get a chance to actually go and explore what we have to offer at Amazon Web Services for cloud computing and use it for your systems. Been very, very quick, but if there's time for 2 minutes of question and answers, happy to take any questions. Thank you very much. Hi. Sure.
Hello.
Hi.
This is Ajay Devan here. I'm
Hi.
from Alcove Service Apartments. Basically, we plan to consolidate quality service apartments across India. So my portal is getting ready. And in fact, last month, my software guys who are developing the software at the portal, they told me to move, we will move your portal on the Amazon. They recommended me Amazon.
Great, great.
So they gave, the package was, if I understand correctly, I'm not a technical guy.
Sure.
There are 4 variables, the RAM, they said 4 GB RAM, 2 virtual CPUs, 100 GB hard disk, and some units bandwidth.
Right,
These
right.
are the 4 variables. So if I look at the costing of AWS, it
Yes.
worked out to almost 10,000 rupees a month. And when I read between the lines, I felt it is not true pay-per-use. I'm not too clear about, out of the 4 variables, there are 2 which are fixed. For example, if I use 4 GB RAM,
Right.
whether I use 4 GB or not, I
Yeah.
have to pay for 4 GB,
Yeah.
which is not a true pay-per-use. Ultimately, after a lot of web search, I found out an Indian company,
Sure.
ESDS, which was truly online. For the same package, I need to pay only 3,000 rupees per month, and because I'm not too sure what would be my traffic once I
Sure.
launch.
Sure.
So I would not like to pay 10,000 rupees a month, and
Yeah.
I, instead of AWS, concluded at ESDS. Tell me if I've taken a right decision or a wrong decision.
Thank you for your question, and I'll try and answer in a very generic fashion, not specific to your things, but let me explain a little bit more detail about how we price our stuff and how we charge for it. There's really 3 variables that we charge for on a pay-per-use basis. The first is compute. You tell us how big a machine or how small a machine you want, and we have one simple variable. We charge per hour. So whether you run it for 5 minutes or 55 minutes, that's a 1-hour block. When you switch it off at the end of the hour, you stop paying for it. So we charge that machine. Now, if you want a big machine, it's maybe $4 per hour. If it's a tiny machine, it's 2 cents per hour. You choose. The flexibility we offer is you can choose how many of those machines you want at any time.
So sorry for the interruption. Are
Yeah.
you saying it is per hour basis or per month basis?
No, this is per hour. Per hour. You can literally switch the machine off the following hour and stop paying for it. So there's no commitment and there's no long-term contract. There's no minimum. It's not like your cell phone where you have a minimum and so on. So you can literally use us for 2 hours, walk away, that's fine. We hope you come back, but if it's by the hour, that's fine. That's the compute side, right? Now, you talked about 4 GB RAM and so on. And you choose how big the machine you want. If you need a bigger machine, the next hour you can upgrade to a bigger machine. If you want a smaller machine, you can also change. So you have the flexibility of changing the machine type. That's the compute side. The second charge we make is storage. And I went into a little bit of detail here, but we only charge you for the amount of storage in your account at any time. So it's kind of like a bank account, right? You get interest on how much money you have. If you put more deposits in, you get more interest. If you take it out, less interest, right? The third charge is the data delivery. Now, we have a unique way of paying for this. We only charge you when a little bit of information is actually delivered. So if this gentleman was downloading a 100 meg movie, and he watched the first 10 minutes, so it's only 10 meg, and then he stopped, we would only charge you for 10 meg delivered. If no one comes to your website for the rest of the month, terrible news, we will not charge you anything because no one came to it, right? But if 1 million people came and they all downloaded the web page, then we would charge you 1 million times 10K or whatever it is, and you can work it out. But it's very, very inexpensive, and the price actually varies depending on the location that they're in. So it's actually more expensive to get data in Japan than it is in the west coast of US. So those are our 3 variables. So back to your point, I think just by understand that our charge system is very much, there's no minimum, there's no commitment. It's literally on an hour-hour basis. What we believe is that by offering you all of these options and variables, you can flexibly change your architecture as often as you want. If next Tuesday you say, you know what, we designed this wrong, we got the wrong number of systems and so on, we should use smaller systems, you can change it without any commitment to us at all. So I hope that answers the pricing option.
I'll check it out.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks very much. We're done? All right. All right, any more questions? I'll be at the back. Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Check that. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Kingsley. That was really exciting.